It's EB Smalley here with my fifth installment of my series Top 10 QBs in the 2020 NFL Draft. Now today I'm going to be talking about Jacob Eason out of Washington. He's a big guy, 6'6", 240, with a golden arm. It's crazy the amount of arm strength that this guy has. The velocity at which he throws the ball is like Josh Allen, and how far he can throw it is like Patrick Mahomes. He's on that level. He has an amazing arm. There's a reason why he was one of the top-rated recruits coming out of high school. With that velocity, he can fit the ball into some extremely tight window throws that almost nobody else can. He has really a top-rate arm, which really makes him pop when watching film. But in my study of him, I noticed that he has some deficiencies which are covered up. If you watch the highlights and see his arm and stuff like that, it doesn't show his deficiencies. It just makes him look really great. But he really does have some things that he will need to work on to be able to be successful in the NFL. One of those is his ability to read the field. He doesn't work through his progressions. He oftentimes will stare down a receiver, and rather than even anticipating that receiver getting open, he waits until the receiver's open and then will uncork it as fast as he can to get it into that window. He doesn't anticipate them getting open. And these habits will lead to a lot of picks because in the NFL, DBs, corners, and safeties, they're too fast and too smart to be able to be fooled like that. It's not going to work. Hopefully he's given some time to adjust to the NFL before starting. I mean, I recommend that for every quarterback, but Jacob Eason definitely needs it. I've heard reports, unfortunately, that he did not dedicate himself to the playbook in college, that he didn't learn it as well as he should have. I also worry about his leadership because of him losing his job to Jake Fromm, who is not nearly as physically gifted as Jacob Eason is, but he took his job. And that calls into question, his maturity and his work ethic. And even though he has that much natural talent, somebody like Jake Fromm, who is a good leader, has the intangibles, but isn't as physically gifted, can beat him out for a job. Kind of gives me pause as about who he is as a player. But I think that he'll definitely get picked in the first round just because of his natural talent. He could slip into the second, like Drew Lock last year. Great arm, lots of physical ability, but some questionable decision making and other concerns that teams had caused him to slip into the second round. But he has more than enough mobility to go along with his good arm. He could use some help in learning how to deal with pressure a little bit, though. He tends to make bad decisions when under pressure. He is a project, but with a potentially high payoff, extremely high payoff. That's why I think someone will take a flyer on him within the first round. It could be a similar situation, like I said, to Drew Lock, in where he slips, but you never know. Maybe the Chargers, if they don't plan on using their early pick on a quarterback, or if they trade back maybe to get more picks, they might be able to get him later in the first round. I could also see the Bucks. They don't have Tom Brady forever. They need to think about their future, and a strong-armed quarterback like that, being able to learn behind Tom Brady and learn from Bruce Arians, person who's worked with some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, would definitely be of benefit to him. Maybe he can learn some things about work ethic and how to conduct himself as a leader. I think that would be an ideal situation for him. I think that's honestly the best option for him. A similar option to that, for good reason as well, is the Colts. He could sit behind a veteran with a offensive-minded head coach. If he slips into the second round, I would not be surprised if you see the Bears taking him. The Lions. There's rumors about Matthew Stafford maybe getting questioned, as his status with the team questioned. I doubt that very much. But Jacob Eason's a very similar skill set to Matthew Stafford as far as arm talent and things like that. Maybe the Cowboys. I could see the Cowboys maybe being interested, depending on where they see this Dak situation going. Maybe taking somebody with some high upside to be his backup for a year, maybe two, while they try to figure out the situation there. But that's only really, I think, if he falls into the mid-second or maybe even later. Personally, if I was a GM, I would not take him unless I had quite a few sets of I don't know. I'm having a stroke or something. I don't know. But I think that it would have to be a situation where I had a starter in place. I could let him learn. I had a coach that I trusted to work with him and get the best out of him. Otherwise, I wouldn't even sniff taking him in even the late first round, personally. I think he has bust written all over him. I think he's definitely the highest risk in this draft. But again, he has a high payoff. Him and Jordan Love are both very similar, in my opinion, where they have high risk but high payoff. They have a high ceiling, and some people fall in love with the ceiling, and it tends to give them less concern when it comes to the imperfections. Love goggles, or however you want to call it. He's definitely, if he dropped into the third, if I was a GM, I would even trade up in the third round to even get him, because he's just that good of a potential payout. He's so ultra physically talented that it's worth taking a third round pick. A first and a second, you can get some instant contributors who are very useful to your franchise, that are almost more likely guarantees to be of use to you, when Jacob Eason is not, in my opinion. I think he's very, very risky. And so I would never take him in the first round if I was a GM, just because especially if you're in the later half of the round, you are that close. You're probably already a playoff team, and anybody who can help you right away, is somebody that you want. So it's just, I don't think it's best to take him in the first round. And for that reason, I think he might slip into the second. I would not be surprised. I have him as a late second round talent. But there are certain situations where I believe that he could be a second-round pick, similar to Drew Lock last year, and be able to be successful having some time and maybe overcome some of his issues. But that was my analysis of Jacob Eason, and I appreciate the view, and I hope you subscribe and like, and thank you, and have a good one.